Round number 5 of action here from Atlanta. Gaudenis will start off with a Plains, and the Duke has a Plains of his own. For Reid, it is just a cliffside lookout. For Gaudenis, it's a fortified rampart. Looking to D up a little bit here. Both these players, a white-green. Reid appears to have a little bit of a splash of black in his deck. A swamp here for Vidugiris. He'll just pass the turn back over to Duke. Duke will miss his land drop, unfortunately. Gaudenis with a Fertile Thicket, so that'll trigger. He'll look at the top couple of cards, see if he can find a land in there.
The only black card that appears to be in Reid's deck is a Gaudenis Emissary.
Okay. And it looks like Gaudenis has a bit of a black splash going on here, too. Potentially just for Converge. We'll find out as the game goes.
He also has a Juru Stalwart, so an incentive to play 3 colors there as well.
Fertile Thicket done resolving. We're going to head Reid Duke's way. He's got a spell to play, but it does not appear he has in the land. He just has to pass the turn back. Still stuck on 2.
Yeah, the Serene Steward. Life gains matters payoff. Also, just a Grizzly Bear.
Another fortified rampart here.
And this card could be a great payoff if you have enough, a critical mass of life gain. It looks innocuous, but this card can take away games over pretty easily, especially if you have repeat effects like Stonehaven Medic, although Reid is not playing his copy. Not enough life gain matters to quite make that a thing, but Gaudenis Emissary is a great pairing.
Duke will discard his McKendy Patrol. That one gives allies vigilance. Gaudenis with a land. He'll just pass the turn back. There's a copy of Blighted Woodland, and he's getting ready to sacrifice that. Duke does find a land to Mortuary Mire, has no interest in putting that creature on top of his deck. And now Gaudenis will activate that Blighted Woodland and search for some lands out of his deck. Feels a little bit like Crows and Verge for you old school players out there, but nowhere near as good.
No, but also easier to play.
Yes. A swamp is 1 here for Gaudenis, and a forest is 2.
So what's going on with the swamps in Gaudenis' deck?
The swamp here, a little splash here for Demon's Grasp. That's what you'll find mostly here. Gaudenis, 3 copies of Gideon's Reproach, quite a few of those. His deck is a little bit more defensive, it appears. And he does have some big things to do, actually. So this deck is unique. He's got a lot of Eldrazi things going on. 2 Eldrazi Devastators, a Desolation Twin, a Conduit of Ruin, and a Void Winnower. A lot of Eldrazi stuff. And here's the first one, an Eldrazi Devastator.
This is one of the Eldrazi's that are considered to be below the line by a lot of players, not quite good enough to play regularly, but you can see Gaudenis has a very clear strategy here. Slow the game down, get some extra mana in play, and just crank out as many 7 and 8 mana plays as he can get his hands on.
And he's got a lot of mana here as well. You know, Eyeless Watcher, that makes Scion tokens to be able to pump. Lifespring Druid, that'll generate mana. Seek the Wilds will too. So there's a lot of ways to generate mana pretty quickly to be able to get towards these big creatures, and he D's up pretty nicely with these 2 fortified ramparts, 3 Gideon's Reproach. He's got a sheer drop as well. I kind of like the cut of his jib here. It feels kind of constructed-esque.
It's a cohesive deck.
Yeah.
There's a plan here. It's not just a collection of cards across 3 colors.
Gaudenis Emissary was the play there for Duke, but for now he's going to get attacked by the Eldrazi Devastator. There's a Tajuro Preserver. It looks like another copy of Spawning Bed. Just going to pass the turn back. Keep in mind, Gaudenis does have 2 copies of Spawning Bed as well, so you can see exactly what he's up to. He wants to get Eldrazi out ahead of schedule and be able to beat you down with them. Some of them are great, like Void Winnower, Desolation Twin. Conduit of Ruin can find the rest of the gang as well. Duke will get the trigger.
Not really in a position right now to do anything with the Serene Steward. Just needs to catch up on the board.
Duke will come across for a couple of points here in the air. See what the follow-up is.
It's an Eyeless Watcher here from Duke.
Okay. Some Scion tokens on the way.
hopefully can break him out of these mana issues that he's had early on, but not a great answer to trample.
4 mana 1/1 that brings 2 Eldrazi Scion creatures with it. Some are a very big fan of this card, others are not. You know, we had Brian Bronduin on the pregame show, and he said, I don't like this card at all.
That surprises me.
Yeah.
I think even if you don't like green, this has to be one of the most important green commons. If you're going to make a green deck work, this feels like a big part of it.
Some blocking to be done here by Duke. Going to try to get that 3/4 off the battlefield. Now again, remember, Gaudenis does have 3 copies of Gideon's Reproach, but the Stalwart is down. And this makes a little more sense here as there's a Desolation Twin. Do we have our 10/10 tokens?
Time to find out.
Or does someone lose their job here with SCG Live?
I always love this part of it.
Ooh, wow, hello.
Unexpected.
Indeed.
Someone lives to be employed another day. Would not have guessed.
Desolation Twin. When you cast it, you get a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature token.
And there's some of this when you cast going on with the Eldrazi. And this is an effort from R&D to make them better against counterspells. Yeah. Those counterspells are already pretty good against 10 mana plays, historically. So at least get a little bit of action for all your investment.
So just 20 power. No big deal.
Yep. It's pretty good because your opponent starts at 20, so that's all of it right there.
Just from one card.
Just one.
And Duke is going to try to fight on, though.
It's a veteran war leader.
That's a heck of a card. Now, one thing you know about Reid, if you ever watched him play Magic over the years, not one to concede.
Never.
And for what it's worth, Desolation Twin and its 10/10 friend, they don't trample.
You know, you can see if you're on Reid's side of the table here. I got some chump blockers. I got, you know, a Drana's Emissary. Gaudenis has not removed it yet. Play on. No reason to concede.
Some blocking to be done here. See if Reid has something. It appears that he does. All right, so
never surrender.
Yeah, we're
Ten tactics, gain a little bit more life.
Yeah, a little bit more toughness against the Trampler.
Untapped, still got the Emissary in play.
The veteran war leader on the battlefield as well. So we got a little something brewing here. It's not great, but
I mean, I suspect Reid's not getting another turn here, but I appreciate soldiering on in the face of adversity.
Can't give up. And now no more.
I'm surprised he didn't make Gaudenis attack. at least make him attack you.
Gaudenis Vidugiris is going to win game number 1 here over Reid. Duke green-white with a little splash of black up a game over Reid's more pure Obzon deck. And taking a look at Gaudenis' deck again, he's very defensive, looking to get towards Eldrazi. He's got Conduit of Ruin, which can find Desolation Twin, 2 Eldrazi Devastators, and a Void Winnower. Pretty sweet deck here. His deck is pretty defensive. 3 Gideon's Reproach, ways to generate mana with Eyeless Watcher, Lifespring Druid, Seek the Wilds, and then just start cranking out Eldrazi to work that game.
Yep. So I have found another black card in Reid's deck. It's a copy of Painful Truths.
Okay.
A fine splash card in Sealed. This matchup does look a little challenging on the face of it for Duke. He's playing with a slow deck, but one that's ultimately trying to attack with normal creatures. And I don't know how well he's going to do against a plan of defend myself early and then just crank out these 7, 8, 9, 10 mana plays. His deck is not nearly as powerful once it gets to that stage of the game. I don't know if he's fast enough to pressure Gaudenis sufficiently to prevent the game from getting to that point.
What Reid has to do, and I think he'll probably realize this based off of what he saw in that last game, he's just got to try to be the aggressor.
Yeah,
but it seems hard.
There's no, you can't take away too much from that game. Reid missed his 3rd land drop, and Gaudenis' curve was very smooth and then got to big stuff and killed him. But just looking over the deck list here, Reid feels like he's playing with a sealed deck, and Gaudenis feels like he's playing with a cohesive, low-level constructed deck.
Yeah. It's very clear what Gaudenis' game plan is. You take a look at the deck list, you see how the game played out. D up, ramp up, play Eldrazi.
And just looking at Reid's list here, he's got Eyeless Watcher, Lightspring Druid, and Snapping Gnarlid. Those are all fine individual cards, but do cards like that create cohesive draws?
Yeah.
Probably not as consistently as Gaudenis does.
Well, these players will shuffle up. They'll get ready for the next game. Maybe Gaudenis, maybe bringing in a little bit more colors. Again, when you see great players here like Duke and Vidugiris, watching them sideboard and limited is very interesting. We don't know what they're bringing in, but clearly some cards are being moved around in and out of sleeves and from the sideboard to the main deck and vice versa. So that could mean another color. That could mean that, maybe they went over their pools, they built their decks, and they said, hey, guys, take a look at my deck. What do you think? And the friend said, well, I think you should be doing this every single time. Get this card out of your deck, get this card into your deck, maybe play this additional color.
You're sizing up your competition all the time.
Yep.
When you sit down and you're playing in a Magic tournament, you watch how people carry themselves at the table. You look at how they shuffle the cards around in their hand. You're always trying to gauge, the way they tap their lands, even you're trying to gauge this sense of professionalism and intensity. And you're usually sizing up how good your opponent is based on that sort of stuff if you aren't seeing a whole lot inside of the game. For me in Limited, the first tipping point that someone is more casual and not especially experienced is they just start shuffling for game 2. They're not even looking in their deck box. That happens pretty commonly, but sideboarding is really important. You see, it looks like between the two of them, they've probably swapped 7 or 8 cards between their decks.
I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Reid finds a way to maybe take a more aggressive slant or find some answers to the Eldrazi's that have been cast in the previous game, or some ways to get those 06 fortified ramparts off the battlefield so he can start pushing through damage.
Well, I am checking to see if there's any big swaps available for him. He does have some very good options in his sideboard if he wants to slow down the game. He has 2 copies of Giant Mantis in his sideboard, and he's got a copy of Stonehaven Medic. Okay. So if he's playing against an aggressive deck, Reid has some very good options. The same sort of stuff is not striking me as having against a control deck or a ramp deck.
Or Reid will choose to draw. Maybe a little surprising there?
No. I mean, Reid's deck is not so aggressive that he's going to be able to capitalize on being on the play very easily. Okay. And he's also 3 colors.
Sure.
He's playing against another 3-color deck, so, the extra card could matter quite a bit.
Now, how does it feel? We talked about when you choose to draw and you watch your opponent mulligan, you feel like you've already won.
Yep.
Now, how about when you choose to draw and you mulligan?
I'm a genius.
Yep, there it is.
This game could have easily gotten away from me if I chose to play. I mulliganed. We've already discussed that it's barely worth playing the game out at that point. And I feel like I still gave myself a chance. The die of fate has rolled against me, and even in spite of that, we play on.
Yeah, you're able to overcome.
Adversity set against you by the fates. Nothing you have any control over. That's how I feel. Just so smart. Talented.
Handsome.
Well liked.
Yep. Reid is going to scry here. We'll see where he wants to put this card with the Vancouver Mulligan. He's going to leave it on top. Gaudenis will start off with a Fertile Thicket. See if he can find a land. In the meantime, while Gaudenis is resolving the trigger, we do want to give a shout out to our friends at Myriad Games in Amherst, New Hampshire, for streaming this in their local store, one of many stores here this weekend that are watching Grand Prix Atlanta.
We appreciate it. For all of you hanging out at your local stores, maybe playing some side drafts yourself, checking out the coverage, thanks for tuning in.
A Plains here from Gaudenis that he found off the Fertile Thicket. It'll pass the turn back over to Duke. Duke started with the Plains, now he's got a Forest, and there is the Cub. Starting to see a little constructed play as Fellow Dark Cub.
Very good with Ojutai's command.
Yes, it is. Take care of a Stasis Snare, a Silk Wrap. Doesn't have a ton of targets in Limited, but it does attack for 2, just like any other 2-drop would. Does Duke have a follow-up? He'll just pass the turn back over to Vidugiris. A 2-3 here with the Courier Griffin from Gaudenis. Over to Duke we go. Gotta put those creatures up front, Gaudenis.
Just barely avoided a disqualification there. Right in the nick of time.
I believe a Hedron Archive here for Reid.
Yes, it is.
So perhaps he's trying to accelerate to some big Eldrazi. There is a Swamp for Gaudenis.
There are no Eldrazi in Reid's deck. This is the first one that I've seen.
Okay.
The big colorless Eldrazi's got nothing.
Well, at the worst, it does draw 2 cards.
Yeah, and you naturally, because of Awaken and other random expensive cards, it's going to be functional. This is a card that it's, I think, very rare that gets cut from a sealed deck, but Reid is not quite maximizing it.
An Eyeless Watcher, Snapping Gnarly, pass the turn back. And this is what you kind of talked about a little bit during the sideboard. The disjointed nature of Reid's deck, it appears.
Yes. I'm not sure he can attack through a 2/3. Gaudenis is at 18, making his land drops. Top end, a lot more powerful than Reid's.
Blighted Woodland here for Gaudenis. He's got one of those. He's got 2 Fertile Thickets and 2 Spawning Beds. And now he's tapping 6 mana, but for what? Conduit of Ruin, a great card in his deck, actually. That'll trigger. He's got a bevy of options to search up, so we'll see which he chooses. Could go to the Void Winnower. Looks like he's just going to go with the Devastator.
I like getting a Trampler here. Duke's board is able to chump block some large non-trampling creature for quite a long time, so this is the path I'd go. Also castable next turn because of the Conduit of Ruin.
Well, we're going to go Reid Duke's way. He's untapping, he's drawing. He's got to get past that 2/3 Courier Griffin and a very large Eldrazi in Conduit of Ruin. There's a forest. He's tapping mana very quickly here. It looks like he's got the Angel.
It's a lot of life, but this is not the kind of matchup where Gaudenis is too concerned about that.
Angel of Renewal to play there for Duke.
I mean, a 4/4 flyer is good on this board. At least it allows Duke to do some attacking. But Gaudenis is really trying to overpower Duke here.
And you see Duke up to 26. But the Eldrazi might be coming in the red zone soon here. And we saw just how powerful the Eldrazi Devastator was last game. It might be good enough to get the job done this game. Void Winnower instead. That's going to make it hard. It's going to make it hard. I'm not sure if you see how many even permanents there are out there on the battlefield here for Reid, but it's quite a few.
And 0's even, right?
Yep.
And 2, 2, 4, 0, 0, 6.
Yeah. Your opponents can't block with creatures with even converted mana cost.
That's good that Reid gained some life last turn, I guess.
Can't play spells with even converted mana cost either. I don't know if he's got any spells to cast, but this is getting hard.
Also, 11/9's, pretty big.
Yep.
Not a good sign if Reid is opening the turn with sacrificing the archive.
Yeah. Void Winnower is such an interesting card because you take a look at that card and it almost feels like a joke, right? Even cards can't do something. Okay, sure. I'm not quite sure about the applications of that.
I don't know. It's on average good against half your opponent's deck.
Yeah.
That's the application.
Yeah. And sometimes all of it.
Assuming an equal spread of mana costs, it's good against about half their deck.
Now, one thing you can do when a Void Winnower is out there with even numbered permanents or even cast converted mana cost permanents, you can attack with them.
Yes.
So that's good for Reid. He gets to come in here for 4 points in the air. But again, blocking is going to be a little bit difficult. And I'm curious just how aggressive Gaudenis wants to get this turn. Currently, nothing is eligible to block.
Though something to keep in mind here, and something that's probably on Gaudenis' radar, is that Sheer Drop is an odd mana spell. So if he makes an attack, Reid could untap, Sheer Drop something, the Void Winnower if it attacks, and then start breaking out.
Yep.
It's probably not enough of a reason to hold back on an attack, and you see Gaudenis just sends in his enormous creatures, but that's a card he's got to think about before taking an action.
And one of the things that's nice here, too, is you don't have to worry about Smite the Monstrous.
Yep, off the table.
Costs 4 mana. So you have to play this weird subgame in your head of, okay, well, these cards are off if they cost 2, 4, 6 even numbers, and these cards are on. And Sheer Drop, as you mentioned, 3 mana, so that's on. Now the Duke is going to take a look at the Void Winnower. It's a doozy. It attacks for a bunch, Reid.
And Reid does have a copy of Tajuru Warcaller in his deck, but I don't think he has enough to attack for lethal.
He also has a copy of Smite the Monstrous in hand right now.
Perfect.
Yep. Yeah, that's going to do it right there. Gaudenis Vidugiris is going to win this match over Reid Duke. The power of Void Widower, a little too much for Reid to handle. He can't even. I'm sorry, I had to. Gaudenis moves on to 5-0.
Ugh, you had to. I thought we were gonna get out of that without that happening.
I'm mostly here to disappoint you.
That was not great.
I'm sorry.
Congratulations to Gaudenis. His 5th win. Reid, first loss.
Yep.
Disappointment washing over the broadcast as Cedric could not help himself from making that pun.